Welcome to the deep dive. If you are balancing a career, managing a home, and trying to nurture both your children and yourself at the same time, you know what we're talking about. Life as a single parent can feel less like juggling and more like a constant high-stakes sprint. That feeling of being stretched thin, it's completely real. It's driven by the immense weight of, well, doing it all on your own. So today, we're going to tackle this head on. Our mission is to take a whole stack of expert sources and just synthesize the most impactful, actionable strategies. We're looking for the kind of knowledge that gives you a genuine shortcut. We aren't here for, high-level motivation. We're here for a detailed roadmap to move you from simply surviving to actually confidently thriving. We're drilling down into mindset, self-care, financial control, and sustainable family routines.
And that feeling of a huge shift, it's so accurate. Single motherhood is a profound transformation. And while it brings these unique, really heavy challenges, financial strain, the sheer volume of decisions, isolation, it also forces you to develop this incredible resilience. And it forges these uniquely strong bonds with your children. So our deep dive today is all about sustainable strategies. We have to shed this crippling expectation of perfection. It's not helpful. Instead, we embrace intentional action. And the core insight here, the truth we have to get out up front, is that thriving isn't an accident. It's a mindset shift. And it's paired with a series of very specific, actionable steps. It is always about progress, not perfection.
And that progress has to start with the hardest part, right? The emotional hurdle. So let's dive straight into the biggest psychological drain.
Right.
Guilt. We know from all sources this is the most common, most corrosive emotion for single parents. It attaches itself to, well, every single decision you make.
And to manage it, you first have to see it for what it is. It's a signal, not some kind of final judgment on you. The sources are pretty clear that guilt usually stems from three specific areas. First, you have societal expectations, that external pressure to be the perfect parent.
The one who's always there, always patient.
Exactly. Then there are the self-imposed standards, which can be even tougher. That belief that you have to manage everything, every single domain, without any rest or help. And finally, comparisons. That toxic habit of looking at other families and feeling like you're not enough.
What's really interesting here is this counterintuitive idea that guilt almost acts like payment. You feel guilty, and that mental tax makes you feel like you somehow justified taking a break, for instance. But it's totally unproductive. That stops you from actually recharging.
Precisely. The goal isn't to fight the guilt. It's to make it useless by committing to intentional, non-negotiable actions. And the practical tool here is to actively challenge and rewrite that negative self-talk. When that inner critic pops up, you have to be ready to replace the thought with something compassionate and evidence-based.
Give us a specific reframe. What does that sound like?
Sure. So instead of "I should be home more, I'm failing my children because I'm always working," you actively replace it. The new thought is, "Working provides the financial stability and opportunities my children need to thrive. I am modeling commitment. I am doing my best with what I have." That shift from a vague, painful emotion to an actionable, compassionate thought, that is the key. That's how you build resilience.
And resilience, as the sources define it, isn't about never feeling tired. It's about knowing you have the strength to adapt and move forward despite the challenges. And you build that capability every single time you get through a difficult day.
Absolutely. When you actually stop and reflect on your past successes, the bills you paid, the crisis you handled, that time you squeezed in a bedtime story even though you were exhausted, you realize you're already resilient. You have to value that strength. That's the real shift.
Okay, so let's unpack the physical foundation.
Yeah.
If we accept that taking care of your mind is vital, we have to talk about self-care. It's so often dismissed as, a selfish luxury. But the sources are absolutely definitive on this. Self-care is a necessity. It's your fuel tank.
It truly is. Self-care is basically any intentional action that replenishes your physical, mental, and emotional health. It's about energy maintenance. You simply cannot maintain the patience and emotional balance you need for parenting if you are running on empty. And critically, when your kids see you intentionally prioritizing your health, you're teaching them a lifelong lesson in self-respect.
But let's be real. When does a parent working 2 jobs get 30 minutes for a bath or yoga? I mean, we have to challenge the practicality here. Did the sources offer any kind of ranking or like a return on investment for different types of care?
That's a crucial point. For the parent who is severely time-constrained, the whole emphasis shifts. It becomes about micro-self-care, small, quick bursts of intentional action. And yes, the return on investment suggests you prioritize whatever is most neglected or most necessary for you to just function.
So tell us what those look like in practice.
Okay, so we can break it down into 4 types. We start with the physical base. Physical self-care. This has the highest ROI. Prioritizing sleepover, say, doing the dishes. Incorporating simple movement, like stretching while you watch TV. Making sure you eat something nutritious, even if it's simple.
Right. And next, the internal stuff,
Emotional self-care. This is all about setting boundaries to protect your energy.
which means saying no without feeling like you have to apologize for it.
Exactly. And proactively using mindfulness, or even just 5 minutes of deep breathing when stress is peaking, instead of waiting until you're totally burnt out.
Then mental.
Mental self-care. And this isn't just about stimulation like reading a book, it's also about limiting negative input. So you actively cut out toxic relationships, you filter your social media, you choose to listen to something positive on your commute, you're protecting your mental bandwidth.
And finally, social.
Social self-care.
Right.
This is your support system, your lifeline. It means connecting with people who actually see you and support you. Other single parents, family, good friends. You have to intentionally outsource some of that emotional load.
Okay, and tying this back to the practicality challenge, how do you schedule this?
You have to schedule it. You use something called time batching. So if you delegate washing the dishes to your 10-year-old, those 10 minutes are now a non-negotiable moment for you to take a quick walk, listen to a song, or just sit in silence. You schedule a break just like you'd schedule a meeting at work.
Okay, moving now to the practical side of this balancing act. How do we handle the intense demands of a career and a home without feeling like they're constantly at war?
We have to adopt a different term. It's not work-life balance, it's work-life harmony. Harmony implies integration, a realistic rhythm where the two areas can support each other. You have to recognize that sometimes one area is just going to need more attention than the other.
So you're aiming for flexibility, not some rigid, equal distribution of time.
Exactly. For your career, the key is negotiation and boundaries. If you need flexibility, you have to approach your employer prepared. Don't just ask for remote work. Present data on how it benefits them. Increase productivity, fewer sick days. You propose specific solutions, like a compressed work week.
And that preparation is so critical. You have to define your at-work time versus your with-children time, and then you have to actually stick to it. That prevents that constant mental leakage, checking emails during dinner. And prioritize tasks with the 80-20 rule. Focus on the 20% of work that delivers 80% of the results.
On the home front, structure is everything. A predictable routine reduces stress for everyone. It helps children feel secure. But the advice is to think of that routine as a flexible framework, not unbreakable rules. Life happens. You need the grace to deviate without feeling like you failed.
And use technology. Use it as your personal assistant. Calendars, visual schedules for younger kids, automating bill payments.
And this brings us back to time saving. Delegate tasks. Involve your kids in age-appropriate chores. This isn't just about freeing up your time. It teaches them respect for the household, teamwork, and frankly, critical life skills. Even a 4-year-old can help.
All right, this is where we really solidify the foundation. We're focusing on the two core pillars of long-term security: raising happy, well-adjusted children and ensuring you have financial control. Let's start with nurturing the kids.
The relationship with your children is the ultimate foundation for all of this. The sources really emphasize that strong bonds are built not through big, expensive trips, but through small, consistent interactions. This means dedicated quality time every day, even if it's just 15 minutes of uninterrupted play, phones off, and active listening without judgment, just validating their feelings.
And for discipline, the experts really advise framing it as guidance. Your rules have to be clear, consistent, and age-appropriate. The strategy is to use a lot of positive reinforcement, focusing on what the child did well, and, crucially, explain the reasons behind the rules. Kids who understand consequences internalize good behavior way faster.
And a quick note on co-parenting, if that's part of your life. It requires respectful communication, even when it's really, really hard. You have to strive for consistency in key routines across both households, and always, always focus the conversation on the child's needs. Shield them from any adult conflict.
Okay, now for that second pillar, financial empowerment. For single parents, financial stability is probably the single greatest source of reduced stress and increased confidence. It is all about gaining control.
And the very first step, the highest ROI action you can take, is to get absolute clarity on your financial reality. This means tracking everything: your income, your expenses, your debts, your assets. I know a lot of people avoid this because it feels overwhelming, but that clarity is the key to creating your roadmap.
And once you know the numbers, the sources recommend a technique called reverse budgeting. So instead of detailing every single expense, you immediately allocate money to savings and investments first, and then you spend what's left. It prioritizes your future. And the practical goal is an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of living expenses.
And here's a little nugget that's unique to this situation. As the sole provider, you have to aggressively target high-interest debt. You have to treat it like an emergency. Also, make sure you're leveraging every available benefit. Single parents often overlook specialized tax credits or state support programs designed just for them. These are high-impact actions.
And security can also come from creatively increasing your income, monetizing a hobby, tutoring, flexible remote work, things that can fit around your kids' schedules. And you should involve your children in age-appropriate budgeting talks. It teaches them about needs versus wants so early on. Wow. We have covered a significant amount of ground today. We've detailed how to reframe guilt, how to challenge that negative self-talk. We established that self-care must be intentional with micro-care, and then we laid out the necessity of work-life harmony. And finally, a roadmap to strong family bonds and essential financial control.
The synthesis is so clear. Thriving means setting a vision, building your confidence through these very specific actions, and then pursuing your goals intentionally. It's about accepting that you are resilient, that you are capable, and that you are doing more than enough, even on the days you feel totally drained. Remember, these challenges don't define you, they refine you.
And by consciously modeling self-care and resilience, by showing your children how to prioritize their health and manage their world, you are not just improving your own weekly happiness, you are setting this powerful example of self-respect and capable living that will serve as the foundation for their success for a lifetime.
You absolutely are deserving of balance and happiness and fulfillment. Just focus every day on small, intentional progress, not that impossible ideal of perfection.
Now, here is a final thought for you to consider. If the goal is not merely to survive, but to thrive, what is the one household or financial chore you can outsource or automate this week that would buy you back just 10 minutes of self-care time tomorrow? Take that single step.